Happy Saturday, everyone. I'm here to talk to you about a myth that our culture tends to buy into, and we refer to this myth as many different names. Crushing it is one thing that we've heard. Making sure that you press your gas pedal of your life to the floor at full speed all times, making sure that you're on high octane roads to success, living in the fast lane. This is what our culture defines as successful. People that are blowing through life full speed all the time, always on, fully loaded for success all the time. And we believe that that's what it takes to be successful. But is it? How successful are we when we really practice those kinds of full-on, no rest, I'll sleep when I'm dead kind of philosophies? I've tried doing some of that, putting full effort forth a few times. I just can't do it. I cannot go full on, get up early, stay up late, add more caffeine to stay awake without getting sick, without eventually crashing. And I'm wondering if it's just me. Is it just me? And I went back to our original design. In Genesis, God advises us to take a Sabbath. In fact, he models for us taking a Sabbath on the seventh day of creation. God designs us in his own image, and then he says, I'm taking a Sabbath after my work. I've created you in my image. I'm taking a Sabbath, and I'm setting this day aside as a holy day of rest. Why would God do that? Does God really need rest? No. God has infinite energy. He has infinite resources. He didn't need to rest, but he knew in our design, when he created us, that we as mortals not only need time to rest, we need time to rest in him. We need time to align ourselves with the true model of success, which isn't humanistic success. And later in Genesis, in chapter 11, we see when we get off track from following God's purposes and his design for success. And they have started building a tower. Let's see what we can do. There's no limit to what the human beings can do when we put all of our efforts in. We can build a tower to heaven. Did they ask God if God wanted them to build a tower to heaven? Was this in God's purpose for their lives? Not at all. God had in mind for them to spread humanity across the earth instead, to go forth and be fruitful and multiply and populate the earth, not one space. Had they stayed in that one space, can you imagine if the population had been concentrated in those ancient times where they were building that tower, how disgusting, how poor the sanitation and health conditions would have been. And not only that, if they had focused only on humanistic efforts instead of on their dependence and their relationship with God, worse things would have happened to human beings as individuals, as families, and as community. When we turn our focus off of God's definition of success and toward our own, pushing it as hard as we can push it, then we get sick, and our behavior, our attitudes, our relationships will suffer in that process. I noticed during the times that I was trying to work too hard on what I thought were good things, that I started to get irritable and cranky. And if I had too much caffeine to try to stay awake and keep going, I didn't sleep well, and I was more susceptible to getting those little colds and illnesses. And some friends of mine I know that are really doing good things. They're working really, really hard. They're physically feeling the effects of working too hard and not taking time to take care of themselves and rest in that process. God grants sleep to those he loves. God designed us to take Sabbath and to take time with him and to rest in him. And I'm concerned that we as Christians can get caught up in this culture of success mindset and forget that God has a different definition of success. What does that look like to be successful in God's eyes? It looks very different from what the world defines as success. We may not be wealthy or famous. We may not be crushing it, being at the top of our game, But in God's definition of success, are we doing what He's called us to do every day while being who He's called us to be in the process? Those are my constant prayers. And in my blog today, I talk about 4 things that are key components of God's definition of success that will also help us avert that crash that comes from pursuing the crushing it definition of success that the world gives us. First, we have to look at the architect. Who is the one who designed this plan? Is it His purpose for me to pursue this? Or did I just come up with it and think it sounded like a great, brilliant idea, maybe even a righteous idea? It might be a good idea, but did God put me up to it, or did I put me up to it? And I need to constantly be in prayer and meditation on that, because on my own, if I'm not consulting the Holy Spirit, I'm not going to be able to tell that. And sometimes I may need some godly counsel, some people who are wise and unbiased in that process, not co-workers with me on my team that may have some investment in me continuing that process. So, and obedience. Am I being obedient to what God has called me to do? If I'm being obedient, I might get tired, I might work hard, but it's going to be a different kind of tired. It won't be that burnout, destroy my life kind of tired that you can get from working too hard. And the energy source is important. Who is energizing my work? Am I taking time aside with God to draw energy from Him, to fill my gifts, to renew my spirit on a regular basis? Am I depending on Him to do this? Or am I staying in my comfort zone? Sometimes I'm not working hard enough because I'm not willing to get out of my comfort zone and do something I can't do on my own strength. It takes God's energy to do God's work. And a truly divine purpose is going to depend on divine power to energize it. So I need to make sure not only am I not just doing what I can do on my own, but I'm turning to Him to energize me to do what He's called me to do. And I'm not trying to do His work on my own. So that doesn't exempt us from being tired, but there are different kinds of being tired, right? You can get worn out, but feel exhilarated. Have you ever done a project and you were super tired at the end of that project, but you felt great about what you had accomplished because you knew it was what you had needed to do, and it was a beautiful thing that you had done when you finished? That is a different kind of tired than being burned out and feeling as though you've spun your wheels. And you may have accomplished something, but it doesn't feel fulfilling. And that's the 4th thing. Fulfillment. Even if I'm physically tired, if I've allowed God to breathe through me into a message, into a project, into a work, then I feel that energy of His presence and His power rejuvenating me as I'm working. Sometimes when I'm on stage, even though it's exhausting, I feel fulfilled because I feel I'm in the zone of God blowing His Spirit's breath through me. I'm not doing it in my strength. He's empowering it. And when I'm writing, there are times when I feel these words didn't come from me. And that is fulfilling, to be able to be a vessel. That's when we're most fulfilled. When we're a vessel, when we just stop, it could be simple things. Stopping with someone on the street that seems like they need a prayer and taking time to hear them and pray for them. They may never know who you are. They may never be able to credit you for that. But when God blows through you, that is being successful. It won't make you famous, but it'll make God famous. And that's what we're here for in God's definition of success. It builds on His honoring and His greatness and fulfilling His purpose. What about you? What have you done that has really fulfilled you and has made you feel successful in God's definition? No matter where you are in the world's definition of success, how have you felt like you are truly aligned in obedience with God's will and felt fulfilled and felt energized and felt like you knew He was the architect of your purpose and that you were being obedient to Him in that moment? I'd love to hear your comments either here or on my blog or on the YouTube channel. I would love to know how you're being fulfilled and supporting God's definition of success. So I hope that you have a wonderful and blessed rest of your week. Bye-bye.